Welcome to all viewers of La Chaîne Géopolitique. So, as you know, we continue to reviewing all the major geopolitical issues that the new administration will go through. So, after reviewing the Iranian, North Korean, and yesterday the Afghan uh, issues, let's focus on the Venezuelan one. Today, the president of Venezuela, President Maduro, said that he was willing to turn the page, calling for a new path after years of tension between the previous administration and the Venezuelan government. I would like also to remind that I'm calling President Maduro, but for the United States, it's not the legitimate authority of Venezuela. In January 2019, the United States chose to recognize as a legitimate president President Juan Guaido, which so far has been recognized by 60 states. So we see that the immediate question that will rise to this new administration is whether the US diplomacy will continue to recognize President Juan Guaido as a legitimate authority. And this week, during the Senate hearing, Anthony Blinken, which could be the next US Secretary of State, declared that the US will continue recognizing Juan Guaido as a legitimate authority, calling Maduro, I quote, a brutal dictator. So we see that on this on the Venezuelan issue, it could be some continuity of the U.S. diplomacy. So we see that so can we expect some change actually? So many observers think that there will be much more moderate stance from this administration compared with the previous one. So it's not yet. It remains unclear whether sanctions will be lifted soon over Venezuela. It's that the hope from from Maduro, whether some or let's say sanction will be lifted. It's a bit the same. There are a lot of common points with Iran due to the fact that total an economic embargo has been imposed on Venezuela, and so Venezuela has the effects has been the consequence has been devastating for the Venezuelan economy due to the fact that all assets of major assets of the Venezuelan state have been sanctioned, like PDVSA, the Petroleo de Venezuela, like PDVSA, which I remind to our viewers just bring 96% of the total revenue of the Venezuelan state. So basically, sanctioning PDVSA means that PDVSA is not able, let's say, to sell its oil to the rest of the clients of the world due to the fear of U.S. retaliation for any client that will buy the Venezuelan oil. So what happened is that Venezuela has used, let's say, the technique of transfondage, meaning that they transfer the oil from a ship to another. So we see that it's a very rudimentary, very unsustainable way of selling. So that's why it explains how brutal was the decline of the oil production in Venezuela, declining to its declining to a level never seen since 1940, producing around 3,000 barrels per day, compared with 3 million couple of years ago. So we see that those sanctions have been had once again has devastating effect, and so now, President Maduro said, he wants to turn the page due to the fact that Venezuela need to find a way to sell its oil, and due to the fact that also he needs a way also of importing its oil, because so far till January 2019, till the sanction has been implemented, Venezuela imported its oil from the United States, but but since sanction, Venezuela turned to Islamic Republic of Iran to import its oil. So we see that those sanctions have strengthened economic relation between both countries, between Venezuela and Iran, and that's the, if you like, that's the paradox of this situation. It means that Venezuela has, let's say, both has has given some revenue, and Iran has found some client to sell its refined oil, due to the fact that in Venezuela there is no refineries which are able to refine such a very heavy oil, which is the main feature of the Venezuelan oil. So we see, so for the time being, there is, let's say, at this stage at least, some gloomy perspective, let's say, for the Venezuelan authorities, at least de facto, de jure, you could choose what is your opinion, but in for the Venezuelan authorities in power, due to the fact that first we see that at this stage the new US administration will not recognize Maduro as a new legitimate authority, will continue recognizing President Juan Guaido as the legitimate authority, despite the fact that he's also quite isolated even among the Venezuelan opposition. Also, is not the only voice of the Venezuelan opposition, which is also represented by other prominent figures like Enrique Capriles. So we see, so it seems that also it remains also unclear at this stage whether the sanction will be soon lifted. So for the time being, it seems that no significant change appears with previous administration. So we will continue following whether there will be some change in this administration towards its attitude, its stance towards Venezuela.